Hi, I'm Coach Daniel, and if you want to sleep amazingly well for the rest of your life, this channel is for you. Colleen has noted that whenever she starts sleeping better, she always takes a couple of steps backwards. We're going to see that this is success regress, and it stems from doubting that progress is real and sustainable. We're going to make sure that you understand what this is and that you can take appropriate measures to only have success. Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. I'm super glad to have you here, and I want to thank Colleen for asking me to do an episode on this topic. In fact, what happened was that Colleen described something that is very common, which is that as soon as she's starting to have a stretch of nights where she started sleeping better and better, then she goes backwards. She starts having trouble sleeping again, kind of as a result of actually sleeping better. And this actually prompted me to really think about other things that are very common, other kind of experiences or phenomena that are very common. And I really had a moment where I realized there's no word for this, but there should be. Because whenever there's a word for something, like for example sleep efforts, which I always talk about, that makes it more concrete, and whenever something becomes more tangible and concrete, it's less kind of scary or frightening, So I've come up with, I think, around 23 different categories of things, like common things like success regress, that I think will be really, really helpful going forward. So before we start talking about success regress, I want to say, if you are finding everything you need on this channel, that is fantastic. If you need a little bit more support and a real curated curriculum going forward, then please consider downloading BedTyme with a Y from the App Store in which I coach. Now that said, let me read to you the definition and the context and some key insights for success regress. So this is what I wrote. Success regress definition: a period of trouble sleeping resulting from doubting that the preceding improvement, which was a result of helpful thoughts and behavior change, was real and sustainable. So that's the definition here. And to give more context, I wrote a little bit more here, and I wrote, client has, so I wrote this in the perspective of somebody who's going to coach. Client has had a period of sleeping better as a result of helpful thoughts, behavior changes. The success, however, appears to be too good to be true. The client wonders if this improvement will go on or if they will have recurrence of the trouble sleeping that preceded it. With each night of sleeping well, the doubts, the preoccupation grows until trouble sleeping occurs again, seemingly confirming that sustained good sleep is not possible. And then the key insight: the doubt is the reason for the regress. If the client accepts that there are no other factors involved and maintains the helpful thoughts and behavior changes that produce the success regress will cease to occur. So let's really analyze this and see how you can get past this success regress if this is something you've experienced. So again, success regress happens when you are learning on this channel or by other means about insomnia. You learn that, for example, sleep is a passive process. Things you do to produce sleep are counterproductive. You learn that most people sleep around 6 hours. You shouldn't have a goal of sleeping more than you need, etc., etc. You learn that insomnia is really caused by threat monitoring. Your brain has perceived that sleeplessness is a threat, and those type of things. And you start to kind of understand why you had trouble sleeping. It's becoming demystified. You're feeling less anxious. You're maybe spending a bit less time in bed, and you're starting to sleep better. And the first night you sleep better, you're kind of really encouraged. Second night too, but here's the thing: your kind of radar in your mind, that kind of safety system that keeps looking out for threats, is not entirely convinced. Because you had trouble sleeping for a long time. So although you're starting to sleep better, it's still on the lookout for threats. And it's thinking, this is too good to be true. Is this really sustainable? Maybe something will happen. What if I start sleeping worse again, etc. And that's kind of like increased threat monitoring. That increased safety response eventually leads to a point where there's now pressure to sleep. After 4 nights of sleeping well, you're like, could I really sleep well? Could this really be happening? And what if I don't? Now you also have something to lose. So then the 5th night, in this example, you sleep really little, right? And then it feels really disappointing because you're doing so well, and you wonder, why did that happen? And you're often tempted to go into like analyzing the day. Was it this? Did I do that? Should I change this or change that? And then you're back where you started. You're back chasing your own tail. You're back kind of like looking for the reason you can't sleep, etc., paying sleep more attention. Now, the real insight here, of course, is that it is that doubting, the wondering if this really is possible. Could I really be sleeping so well? Paying more attention to sleep as a result of actually sleeping better, that results in that regress, that step backwards. So, knowing this, one really important thing here is that you realize that there's no mystery. Insomnia, in fact, does not have a life of its own. It's all produced by how we think of it and how we react to sleep in general. And one of those insights also is that even when you're sleeping better and better, paradoxically, that can also become a reason for why you end up sleeping less. So I hope this really made the concept of success regress clear. Now the question, of course, becomes then, how do you not have this? How do you sleep better and sustain that? Keep sleeping better. Well, understanding success regress is key. Whenever you understand something that's going on, it's demystified, it's not as scary, it's not anxiety provoking. That is very important. That's number one. And number two here is acceptance. It is accepting that there very well may be a step backwards. That is part of the process. So when you're sleeping better a night, 2 nights, 3 nights, etc., and you start thinking, well, what if I don't sleep this 4th night or this 5th night? Then you accept that. You go, that's okay. If I have this step backwards, if you will, if I have this regress, that's not going to derail me. That's totally fine and expected. And when you're not fearful of that happening, then you don't react too much to it. If you have a couple of nights when you sleep better and then you sleep very little, then you say, I knew this could happen. It's anticipated, it's expected. And then with little reaction, you're quickly back and sleeping better again. And the more times you have that regress but don't react to it, the less and less frequently it will happen. And you'll end up in a position when you have only success and no regress. I hope this made sense, and I have a ton of more things like this to share, and I really look forward to sharing more and more of these latest thoughts I've had. So with that said, if you have any questions, please leave a comment or write an email to questions@thesleepcoachschool.com. I'm out of town for a few days, so I won't be back here until Monday next week, but at that point I'll be back for the rest of the next week and going forward. So look forward to having you back here. Until then, take it easy.